Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Miss DevalDivine, your energized motivation speaker or keynote speaker. As always, I like to start off with some encouraging words, and then at the end, I usually read a scripture. I am very much aware that we all have different beliefs. But hey, this is my journey, and I feel free you guys come along and let's go into the Hall of Fame of change. We are still in the process of change. We're just talking about different topics to help you change along the way. This may relate to you or someone in your family or anything like that. So, hey, here we go. We always like to start off with some encouraging words. You also hear the music in the background, of course. If you feel free to just tune in and relax, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're first going to start off with hope. It says, hope and fear cannot occupy the same space. Invite one to stay. And that's by Maya Angelou. And it also, I'll repeat, it says, hope and fear cannot occupy the same space. Invite one to stay. And that is by Maya Angelou. And on the for real, you guys, I got this book out of the Dollar Tree. If you guys ever get a chance, for those who don't shop at Dollar Tree, I advise you to shop at Dollar Tree. They have some very unique books. Actually, I've discovered a few books in there that I have that keep people motivated, keep myself motivated. So if you're trying to figure out where I'm getting these encouraging words from and the authors behind these encouraging words, like I said, this is the Book of Hope, and you can get this book from the Dollar Tree. Okay. Guess what? We are still in the Hall of Fame of Change. Our topic today is stay in your own lane. You ready? I'm talking about it's going to be juicy, right? And hopefully hilarious to a certain extent. But hopefully I can encourage you guys along the way. We'll have some fun with this thing. And we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so the topic of the day, like I stated just now, is stay in your own lane. All right, so you always got notes. You got to have notes. You have to have notes. Okay, and it basically says you can accomplish more in life if you stay in your own lane. Your lane is your protection. Of course, your lane is your protection. And so I'll go ahead and give you a little small story of what I mean by staying in your own lane. This is hilarious to me because as I was putting this together, I thought about me in a scenario that relates to me about staying in your own lane. Okay, so it says, when I was a child, I put on my mom's heels. I don't know many of you, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of us out here who didn't put on our mama's heels and walked around. So it's like when I put on my mom's heels and I caught myself walking around in my mom's heels like I was grown, just strutting them heels, right? I strutted so much and so long that I ended up falling to the ground. I absolutely fell out the heels. Stay in my own lane. I had no business putting on my mother's heels in the first place. My feet was absolutely too small to fit into her shoes. So by me not being in my own lane and I'm in her lane, I put my feet in her shoes and I fell. I put my feet in my mother's shoes, being in her lane and not my own, and I fell. So that was hilarious for me. So I thought maybe that I would share that with you guys, give you a little short scenario about staying in your own lane. Okay, so then it says, when you stay in your own lane, you will never have a problem with growth. See, a lot of times in life, people look at what other people have going on in their life, and they may seem like they winning at that time, but you don't know what that person has to do, what that person did, and what all that person has to do to keep what they got, to be in their lane. So it's always good to stay in your lane and not wander off into anyone else's lane. That is a lot of problems with older people, younger people, and everybody in between. People just go over into people's lane when there is no need to interrupt nobody else's peace, simply because You have your own lane. We were all created equally. We were all created by the Creator, right? He has given us our own lane to stay in. We shouldn't be worried about what such and such doing over here, what sister is doing over here, or what this person is doing, or what that person is doing. Because remind yourself, we all have our own lanes. There's no reason for us to be created if we were going to be in somebody else's lane. And it says, when you see lines in the road, they are for the vehicle's protection. Stay in your own lane. And the reason why we have so many crashes in our lives, our personal lives, or relationships or anything like that, is because we always want to veer off in someone else's lane. Their lane is their lane. Their lane is not meant for you. If it was, then God would have placed you in that particular lane. So that's how car crashes happen. You have, first of all, let's say you're on a one-way street. One way this way and one way that way. Our car veers off and it goes into your lane. And that's how the crash occurs, right? Because one car decided that he or she didn't want to be in their lane, so they veer off into another person's lane, and which causes a crash. When you veer off into another person's lane, that's what causes crashes. And it seems as if you're trying to take over something in someone else's lane. And that is not how life goes. That's why you have your own lane. You are your own person. You are created to be the unique person that God has created you to be. You are this unique human being. You have your own gifts. So there's no need to try to look at somebody else's gifts, because what's for you is what's for you. And that's how you mainly stay in your own lane. See, a lot of times in life, people get lost. They get lost because they look at what another person is doing. And it's like, okay, that person is doing that, but that has nothing to do with you. You're going to support them in your lane. It doesn't mean that you go veer over in their lane because you want what you think that you should have. But in reality, you don't know what that person doing to get in that lane, what they had to do to get in that lane, and what they're currently doing to stay in their lane. That's why it's their lane. And a lot of times, people, like I say, will veer off into other people's lanes, and then they wonder why things don't work out for them the way that it should. It's simply because that lane was never designed for you. That lane was designed for the person who was the driver in that lane, not another driver of another vehicle. Okay, so say for instance you have two lanes. You have more vehicles. You have more vehicles to travel. Okay, so say for instance, okay, you got two lanes going this way. You got two lanes going that way, which is, of course, a total of 4 lanes. And say for instance, you have these two cars going to these other 2 lanes. Now, these other 2 lanes, these people may know each other or they may not know each other. But the lane is designed for these 2 separate individuals. They have their own lane that they go in, and they are content in their lane. And like I stated, how crashes happen is when the other 2 cars, totally 2 different opposite people, but they think alike. It seems kind of crazy how people will pair up with other people to get in your lane, which is totally unfair. There's no need to get in anyone's lane when you have a lane designed just for you. You are the unique individual that God has created you to be. You are perfectly fine in your lane. But people do get greedy in life and see what another person is eating is going to make them full. But I'm here to tell you, what somebody else eat does not make you full. You have your own lane that you need to concentrate on. You have to protect your own lane. You can't protect your lane, protect his lane, protect her lane, his lane, her lane, and everybody's lane. That means you're trying to be controllable. And that's not how it works. There was only one creator. Everybody has their own lane. Now, say for instance, you in a church, and say for instance, okay, you desire to be a preacher or minister, and all of a sudden, you haven't been anointed in or either appointed in to do those things yet, but you try to do that and you end up falling simply because You really didn't have the permission to go into that lane yet. Not saying that that particular lane is not going to ever be available for you. It's not available for you right now because first you haven't reached that potential and your growth is not where it should be. So you always want to be sure that you stay in your lane. You do not ever want to get in someone else's lane, and please do not think that what somebody has is for you, because what they have is for them, not for you, him, and her. That's not the way life works. And that's why each state has insurance, simply because when people don't pay attention, they veer off the road into someone else's lane and it cause a crash. Now the person who's minding their own business, you just went all over here into these people's lane because you felt the need to do so. That is not how it works. Okay, when you veer off over to another person's lane, automatically car crash, automatic corruption, insurance. Now you got to call an insurance agent, and then, oh God forbid that you don't have any insurance, or you one of the people that went into somebody else's lane, but when it got a little hot for you, now you don't want it no more. But previously, just a little minute ago, you wanted to be in this particular lane that wasn't meant for you at that present moment. And that's how crashes happen, you guys. So I'm here to tell you, we still on a Hall of Fame of change. And as you get older or wiser, you must understand that your lane is your lane. Your lane is not everybody else's lane. And you have to protect yourself and place yourself in the lane that you were placed in until growth takes effect. And that is a problem with today's society. You want to be in somebody else's lane. And when the pressure gets too much, you would like to, what I would say, skedaddle. People are good at taking off when it's pertaining to someone else's lane. So that's not cool at all. We're still on a process of change. I totally understand that. But what's for that individual is for that individual. It is not for you. And what the vision of that person was given is the vision of that person, not you. It is not your lane to try to take control or someone else's vision. That's why I'm a firm believer of not releasing your ideas into individuals or to the world until it is set in stone, so you know that you are in your proper lane. Okay, you guys? So here's some good little words of advice, little tweetable line. It says, a good driver knows how to stay in their lane or lanes. You get it? A good driver knows how to stay in their lane or lanes simply because they want to play it safe. They know that, hey, they have been given this particular lane, and they know that, hey, this is my lane. If I veer off into someone else's lane, all ruckus is going to break through. All type of confusion is going to come about. Crashes are going to happen. And then it's like everything begin to go downhill because you didn't put yourself in someone else's lane that you had no business putting yourself in. Please stay out of other people's lane. And know that what is for you is for you and nobody else. Do not get in someone else's lane thinking that is yours, because it's impossible to fill another person's shoes. It's impossible to drive another person's vehicle when you are not authorized to be the driver of that vehicle. And like I say, that's a lot of times we have mistakes in our lives. It's because we veer off into other people's lane. You a good sewer. Okay, this person here is a good braider. Okay, there's nothing wrong with, trying to be a braider. There's nothing wrong with trying to be a sewer or being a sewer. But don't interfere in someone else's lane because you have the same talent or want the talent of the individual, because that talent was given to that individual and it may have been given to you too as well. But don't take from someone or cause a crash for someone and stump their growth simply because of how you feel. A lot of times we have to separate our feelings and put minds over matter. And we're talking about how to stay in your own lane. For those who are just now tuning in, it's a good thing to stay in your own lane simply because it builds growth for you. It takes you places that you've never been in. It puts you in rooms that you never thought you would be able to sit in. It connects you with people that you never thought you would be connected to or with, simply because you stayed in your own lane and you waited your turn. You waited your turn for your own lane for the light to turn green. Now, you could have been sitting in this lane for quite some while at a red light. Hey, that's perfectly fine, because at that present moment it may have been a stumbling block for you not to move forward. But at the end of the day, man or female, young or old, or everyone in between, we all have a lane that we have and that we should stay in. Okay, so as I close tonight, like I say, I always close with a scripture. Like I stated in the beginning, I understand that we all have different beliefs. That's totally fine with me. But this is my belief, and I'll be glad to take you on my journey. So as we close tonight, we're going to go ahead and start with a scripture. And we're going to start with the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9. So we're in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9. It says, "Have I not commanded thee? Be thou strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest." So you must know that for the non-believer or the people who don't believe in the Bible or whatever the case may be, it's totally okay. But it says in Joshua 1 verse 9, it says, "Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee wheresoever thou goest." Basically, he's telling you no matter where you go, he's going to be with you. So if you continue to stay in your own lane, that builds growth. Whether that's a business, whether that's a friendship, whether that's a neighbor, or any of those things. Staying in your own lane, it builds positivity, it builds creativity, and it also builds growth and connections to people that you never thought you'll be part of. It builds a protection of peace by staying in your own lane and unbothering other individuals because you feel as if what they have, you should have. And that's not how it should go. So thank you for tuning in with Miss DevalDivine. I look forward to speaking with you guys again. And you guys have a blessed night.